Hello, Terry. Welcome to my office. And for anyone tuning in and joining us on the replay, Terry and I have worked together before. That may come through by what we share and say, and I just wanted to say that at the front end. So because we've worked together before and you know how I roll, I'll ask, would you like to start this session with a card?
Definitely.
Awesome. Alrighty. So the deck is Sacred Destiny Oracle by Denise Lynn. Let's see what we have today. It's funny with the new people, I haven't been asking because I was like, they don't know. How will I go? Alrighty. Oh, here we go. Oh, what a card, Terry. I love it. Freedom.
Oh,
And like a
oh my God.
sparrow. Yes. And so the book gives us, oh, not a sparrow, sorry, a swallow. The swallow flies free on wind currents and thermals in remarkable aerial maneuvers, igniting the expression as free as a bird. In many cultures, such as that of ancient Egyptians, the swallows were thought to carry souls to the heavens. Early sailors would tattoo themselves with an image of a swallow, so if they drowned, the swallow would carry their souls to the heavens. In poor light, a cliff swallow looks brownish. However, in good lighting, it's a luminous, dark metallic blue. Cliff swallows traditionally make their nests on vertical cliffs, carefully crafting them out of mud. Although they can nest solitarily, they usually nest in colonies, and when one finds a cloud of insects, it alerts the others so they can flock and all be nourished. Even though they fly free, their community supports them. And it says, express yourself without hesitation. Break free and let your spirit fly. Make choices that increase your freedom. Don't be tied down. Laugh, dance, explore, and go beyond predictable behavior. It says, cast aside restrictions, find your wings, and as you do, you will help others to find theirs. You are not here to be ordinary or live a mundane life. You are here to step beyond your limitations and self-imposed boundaries. Oh, that part gave me like a
Oh
gut
my
hit.
God.
Self-imposed boundaries. Don't be trapped by convention or the need to please others. Choose life on your own terms. Don't accept the rules that don't feel right. You can be immensely free and yet still be part of a loving and supportive community.
Okay, I have goosebumps.
Did that bring up anything that you wanted to mention or bring awareness to?
Well, just that a lot of the work that I've been doing has been around having a voice, not being afraid to use my voice, to figure out what my purpose is. Like I've been, setting lots of boundaries around myself and, and using the excuse. So I'm so old now, I can't change all that kind of stuff. So it's lots, it brings up a lot.
Mm-hmm. So before we recorded, and for anyone listening, in the comments below, there will be an application. So if you want to come on and be coached, feel free to fill that in and I can send you a link to book in. You said what you wanted to work on was continuing. And as I said, for reference, everyone, Terry and I've worked together before, continuing to work on the role food and eating holds in my life. Is that still front of mind today, or is there something else based on between when you filled that in and came and what the card said that
Yeah.
you want to work on instead?
Well, I I think it's all connected, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I think continuing to delve into that works.
Awesome. So if we got to the end of this hour and you were to walk away with like, yes, this was an amazing investment of my time and energy, what would you like to walk away with?
Boy. Um, I think just well, one of the things that I was thinking about is when I'm in a state which is connected to food and eating, what tool, like what's in the toolbox that I can go to so I don't feel stuck. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so
I
because
love
it's been
that.
been really it's been a hard week. I've been really, really crabby and really stuck and then yeah, and then and then my go-to is food or well, and then there was this um circumstance that happened when I was traveling that's all around, yeah, just my relationship with food. It's all like bundled together.
All interwoven. So, question, I just want to circle back to when you said, I'm paraphrasing, when I'm in
Yeah.
a state around food and eating. What does in a state mean to you? Like, what kind of things have you got an example of something's happened recently or on the regular?
Well, yeah. So one example, like one specific example around food is so I was traveling with
Hmm.
some friends and we're having a fabulous time. None of them have that I know of that they've ever expressed have issues around food or eating.
Hmm.
Food and eating is really high on my um, list of triggers or whatever. Anyway, so we were traveling for 5 days. We were, having a great time, and I was always coming up around, like always getting stressed around meals and eating.
Mm.
They're all fine, just eating appetizers all the time, sharing food all the time. And I was pretty good. I went with the flow, even though I I get really stressed there's if I feel like I'm not going to get enough or I'm not going to get what I want. And then on the last day, um, a whole myriad of things happened where uh, we were going to go and have specific food in the morning, and then that didn't pan out. Then we were going to have specific food in the afternoon, and we ended up eating crap food at a bad deli in the morning, and then ended up having to eat fast food at the airport before we flew out. And by then, I guess I'd reached my limit of I can go with the flow around food. And I just kept ratcheting up, getting more and more stressed and angry that, and angry too that nobody else like cared, like that.
Mm.
So it was like my issue. I was getting stressed. I didn't want to eat what I was eating, but I was hungry. And I then sort of lost my temper, which I felt really bad about because like it was out of everybody's control. And then I got mad at myself because it's about food. Everybody else is sitting
Yes.
around. They don't care that they're just eating half of a bad wrap. But I'm stressed out of my mind that I'm not getting my needs met when it comes
Yes.
to food.
So my,
And the other thing is, sorry, the other
oh no,
thing
go
is
for it.
food is very personal. I spend a lot of my alone time is with eating. So to have to eat 5 days of meals with other people on their terms, and anyways, I was very stressed by the end. And then I felt really bad that it was such a big deal.
Firstly, I really want to normalize that last point that you said. Eating is normally or usually a solitary or, potentially with loved ones exercise, not, and be eating in front of others makes me anxious. And not only had to do this for one meal, but for 5 days because you traveled together. So your nervous system is likely to be quite activated, especially by day five. I imagine from the whole time. And also, as you said, you don't know for sure, but your assumption is that none of them have the issues, the hang-ups, the problem with eating that you do. What was coming to mind for me is like, I never wear my makeup or do my hair fancy. It's like, so if we go somewhere, I can be ready in 5 minutes, 10 if I have a really super quick shower, But for some people who like the whole routine of putting on their face or false eyelashes or blow drying their hair, I imagine I'd be, by the end of 5 days of traveling with me, you'd probably want to be like, push me out the window. Because it's like, no, no, I need time to get ready. So normalizing that you're out of your regular routine anyway, and around something that for you is anxiety producing, like well done. My question is, have you or would you ever raise to your friends that you have an issue with food? Like, would you feel comfortable to?
Well, I did. So I had traveled with these women before, and the last time I told them that one of my main areas of anxiety was around food. And I mean, they're all cool. I mean, they're all cool. They all know I'm doing, this kind of personal work and whatnot. Um, but I didn't specifically talk about it this time. That because yeah, I guess I was hoping that it would all be fine.
The thing is, sometimes especially if it's something hard for us to talk about, we've talked about it once and we just kind of hope, well, that they'll just remember. Like, but I'm thinking of friends who I've been with or who've come over. I don't remember who is allergic to what. So I always just
Mhm.
check when they come over. Just remind me, is there any allergies? Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Just so, I can know. And I think sometimes, like, we don't want to be walking around going, hey, food is, but it's just sometimes just that reminder that, like, I'm so looking forward to this trip. And however much you want to share or feel comfortable to share, because, like, for me personally, I'm a non-drinker. I just am a teetotaler. So when I do things with people, I just remind them, like, you guys can drink, have at it. I'm not choosing to. I'm not judging you by not drinking. Like, sometimes it can get a bit weird. Sometimes people ask all sorts of things. Is it a religious thing? Is it this? Are you alcoholic? Like, people are really, I was like, I just don't like alcohol because I choose to get my calories from food.
Yeah,
But, so the thing is, if you did restate this, I'm thinking for a future trip, like,
yeah,
if we put this trip behind for now, we'll come back and unpack it. But next time, what do you think would help you? Because you said, some tools at the front end. Would it
yeah.
to mention it to them again if you felt comfortable to or not?
I guess that's I guess part of it is, I guess I feel shame around it. That food is so triggering for me that I like it feels silly or dumb. It feels like I feel like there's something wrong with me that I have to make a big deal of it. So I think, yeah, I think
Can I
that's
interrupt
my,
you there?
yeah.
If one of your friends was diabetic and they were like, we need to eat every 3 hours or whatever, or I can't have this because of my diabetes, what would you think?
Well, that we need to eat every she needs to eat every 3 hours. And yeah, and I know on this, I know intellectually on the surface that if I said I really need to go and have an actual real sit down meal, that they would be fine with it. And then, but see, then I get, I actually get mad. I actually
Ooh,
got mad
tell me
when,
more.
yeah, so when we were at a restaurant, I hadn't eaten all day, I mean, since breakfast, and we sat down and then they just all wanted to share tacos. And it's like, I, like, why aren't you people eating more? Like it's like it feels like, I don't know. I get, I don't know why I get mad at them for eating how they want to eat because I want them to eat how I eat. I
This
want
is
them to be hungry. I want them to have a full meal and not share.
Yeah, this is so curious. So, question, are you mad because they were eating like that, or are you mad because you felt that you should want to eat the way that they do?
Well, probably more that way. I mean, it's probably more being mad at myself
Yeah.
that I'm not, I don't want that. But then the other part of it is when I eat, like when we shared the tacos, like I was full at the end. So it's again, it's not a hunger thing. It's
So I'm curious about the madness. I'm trying to unpack it and because the
yeah.
thing is, what were you worried that you wouldn't have enough or that you'd still be hungry? Because then you just said at the end I was full, but like were you mad at
Yeah.
the end? You didn't say that. Were you mad afterwards?
Interesting. I was so I felt, well, I guess first off, I if I had to choose, because I arrived late, because I did a different activity than they did. So they had all arrived, and then I arrived late, and they had already ordered.
Okay.
And they all so we ordered, guacamole and tacos to share.
Yep. Yep.
So I guess part of my frustration was that would not have been my choice, first off. But I mean, and I guess I could have ordered a full meal if I like, or a different meal if I wanted to. Like they would have been totally fine with that. But I guess
Here it
one
is.
yeah, one of my issues is one, people pleasing and not appearing different.
Yes, there it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the thing is, my other question was going to be, you said you did arrive late because you did a different activity. Were you already feeling anxious from having arrived late, or was that not a worry?
No, that wasn't a worry because
Okay,
that was
that's good to know.
planned. I knew I was
Yep.
going to be late from the way the different activities ended up. So that wasn't the worry. I thought, I guess first off, I thought we are going to a different restaurant than where we ended up. Um, and then like I said, they had already ordered. And it was good food. I mean, it was
Mm,
good.
mm.
Um, and like I said, I
But it isn't what you
was
wanted
full.
or where you wanted. And I think sometimes
And
with the
it wasn't what I wanted, where I wanted. They'd ordered, they're all perfectly happy, and I felt like I should have been happy
there it
with the
is.
choices.
There it is. So, what would you be like for you to be like, and just consider for future, and you might be like, no, Suzanne, this is too scary. But like if you had food standards or food boundaries, like for me, one of my personal food boundaries, I don't share food. And people makes all sorts of assumptions. Is it about germs? Is it about this? Is she cheap? Like I don't care. That's their business, it's not mine. But I don't like to share food. I like to order what I like. And then if there's stuff extra, I take it home and I eat it the next day or whatever. But, one of my personal food I will make an exception, like with my kids, because, often honestly, my daughter and I will pick something and then we'll go halvesies because often the meals are quite large. But in general, like if I was meeting friends out, I just don't share food. And they can all share and they'll be like, oh, that's Suzanne. She doesn't share. But they just know that. Like these are the people who are your friends. Or if I go to a place that has a set menus actually really, I would never choose that personally. But if it's a catered or a thing event, I will call ahead of time to check what it is. And if it's going to be alternate drop, I'll see, can I have this? And, people might think, oh, I'm fussy. And it's funny how if I had intolerances, people tend to be, from my opinion, a lot more, oh, well, she can't have gluten or she can't, but it's like, no, this is just because this is how I like it. Sometimes it affronts people. It's not my business.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
This is big.
this is it's a big stick, it's a big scary area for both the so it's all sorts of things. It's the people pleasing, it's the having to use my voice, it's
There,
having to know what
yes.
I want and state it. It's feeling ashamed and embarrassed about my choices. Like like and I don't know why that is. Like it's not.
That could be conditioning. That could be from when you were a little girl. That could be
Yeah,
societal. That could be like, it's funny sometimes the things you mentioned, people pleasing, like, let's break this down. Sometimes we're like, oh, just a people pleaser or whatever. But if we really pause and go, well, what people? Like, do these people that I'm hanging out with really actually care?
yeah,
Did you go for the girls' trip for the food or did you go to hang out with your mates?
yeah,
And just another question, we're pausing this slightly.
yeah.
What day in the 5 days was this Mexican meal?
It was it was in the it was day it was like day 4.
Because it sounds like it didn't really wind up to culmination until day 5 with the deli food and then the takeout.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I think
when
it started on day 4 because I think it had sort of been okay, but I guess maybe I wasn't feeling satisfied because we pretty much just shared appetizers the whole week. Like, I mean,
Yes.
we didn't sit down for a meal, like a
Yes.
meal. And they were all fine with that. And I think I guess I was building up and I didn't know.
Yeah. And the thing you said, using your voice, knowing what you want, and then being able to state it. Like another example I can think of, Jeremy and I, we aren't particularly religious. We don't say grace or anything. But sometimes when we have friends over, we go to a friend's house. If I know that that's their practice, I know sometimes they'll go to stop or whatever. Like, no, we're in your space or you're in our space. You're welcome to do whatever, bless the food that suits you. And we will honor that and make space for that. But please remind me because I forget because this isn't what we normally do. So it's not like, oh, that's Suzanne, she doesn't whatever. It's like it's just a reminder. So it's
Mhm.
like using your voice and speaking up for yourself. It's not a one and done. Like what comes to mind for me is kind of like if we had a fire, we have to continue to add logs to it. And we think more like I've created this masterpiece, like I have this thing, and then it's forever, it's just done. And it's like, no, it's not like that. It's kind of like it's low on logs. We need to add some more fuel. So reminding people, and like it sounds like, and correct me if this isn't landing, it kind of probably was an issue early on, and then you just kind of like pushed it under the rug, pushed it under the rug, and then day 4 kind of started to really escalate, and then that wasn't addressed, and then day 5 became day 5, not because of what happened on that day, but because of the
Right.
culmination of the previous days leading up to it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I think, I mean, a big part of it is actually figuring out what it is I need around a
Yes.
meal.
So if you and I were to make this now, and now instead of getting ahead to how am I going to communicate it, or is this too much, or am I being demanding, like if we were just between you and I right now to map this out, step 1, let's work out what it is that you want. Then
Hmm.
step 2 can be how do I state it? Because sometimes because we don't know how to state it, we don't actually figure out what it is that we want, and then we
Yeah.
end up in this kind of thing. So if you're like, okay, ideally when I go out to eat, whether it be with friends or my partner, my kids, on my own, like what is Terrie's kind of go-to tool when you go out? What do you want? I feel like Lucifer, what is it you truly desire?
Yeah. Well, it's not an easy question, actually.
No, it's not.
Um, so I guess basically I so in an ideal world, I would want what I want without caring about
Yes.
who was sitting at my table. Like if I
Yes.
wanted a burger, if I wanted a salad, if I wanted to just have got like it would be, I would love to be able to just go and order what I wanted. And that's what it felt like the other women were able to do.
And that's probably why you got mad,
Yeah.
because they ordered what they wanted and didn't care what anyone else thought. And that makes you mad, not because you think they're not eating enough or not because of this, is because I
No.
want to do that, but I can't at this
Yeah.
stage right now, up until
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that, yeah, it feels
And
dumb.
in it, well, it does feel dumb, but you can kind of understand it. I think this is the great unstated. Like I'm sure along the line, someone said to you, "Should you really be eating that?" Or maybe you should. Have you tried just eating less? Or maybe you have more salad. Or sometimes well-meaning and sometimes just purely sarcastic. And then we take that on, and it sits in the back of our head
Yeah.
because in order
Yeah.
to
And
order what
it's
you really want,
connected. Yeah.
you need to
And
know
then
what you
it's all
want.
connected to, um, not being thin. So then it's like you get all caught up in your head as, am I allowed to, like in society, right? Is like,
Yes. Yes. And the thing is,
and
am I
so,
allowed to? According to who? Like, if you were
yeah,
doing something illegal, like snorting drugs at a table or riding around without a seatbelt, I assume seatbelts are a legal requirement
yeah,
over
you
there.
have
Like,
to,
that would be like excuse me, ma'am, put your seatbelt on. It's $1,000 fine. Or excuse me, ma'am, we're taking you to the thing because what is that? Like, but in terms of who is the food police? What is thin? How much is a much? Like, because when you think about it, if you're sitting in the restaurateur doesn't care whatever you order because they're going to get paid. They might actually prefer you order the burger because it probably costs more than the salad. I don't know, could be wrong. The friends probably don't care because they're there to connect with you and they honestly may not even notice what you eat because they're there having the conversation. You will notice, you'll probably notice everything that everyone else is eating and how much, and how can she just leave that there? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How could she eat that little? Isn't she hungry? Like you, but to them,
Well, and I think as you're talking, and it's sort of like, I mean, they would have been totally, totally fine if I had ordered a meal and ate what I wanted. Like they wouldn't, honest to God, they would not have cared and they just would have shared. But I think part of, and I sort of felt this the whole week, and again, it's me, not them, was the feeling of belonging.
yes. So tell me more about that. Because the thing is it really the food or is it that? And then we think, oh, it's because I'm bigger or it's because I eat differently or it's because, we make a false connection.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it is if I didn't partake, then I would be separate. I wouldn't be part of the group. And as the week went on, I could feel myself sort of disassociating a bit, like where I became like very aware of the situation, and it's like, how should I respond in this situation? So I wasn't like in the situation. I was reverting back to old habits in a group where
Yes.
I was trying to figure out how do I act to fit in. And
There it
again,
is.
it wasn't them, right?
Yes.
It was, I guess it was the fact that it was, 5 days and I was out of my,
Out of your regular thing, out of your comfort
yeah.
zone. And have you ever heard the four levels of learning? The unconscious, incompetence. Are you familiar with this model? Okay. So
Vaguely, but
I'll just it's bears reminding. There's unconscious incompetence. So a small child doesn't know that they don't know how to drive a car. So when they don't know that they don't know, they don't care because it's not even in their awareness. Then they get to the stage where they're consciously incompetent. It's like, I want to be able to drive a car. I want to be grown up. I want to make the decisions, but I'm restricted. My parents are horrible or whatever. Then there's the conscious competence where you learn, but you're like, check my mirrors, put the foot on the brake, someone's there, use it, like it's just that's exhausting. And then there's the unconscious competence where you're driving and singing and you turn up at the place. And sometimes when we're in the conscious incompetence, like working towards the conscious competence, like I want to be able to order whatever I want, whenever I want it, and not give two fucks what anyone thinks. And we see people who do it unconsciously, like they don't even know because they're at the other end of it. It to us can bring up so many things about do I belong here? What do I need to do to fit in and whatever? And to them, and then you're conscious of this. So the reason I really want to bring to attention that this is so challenging is because of the phase that you're in. If you were unconsciously incompetent, you wouldn't think about it. And if you were unconsciously competent, you wouldn't think about it. But in these phases here in the middle, it's often the most exhausting or depleting or whatever way you draining because you're like, oh, I'm really putting work in here.
yeah. And that's what it felt. And it felt like that feeling increased as the time went on. Like I could feel myself sort of pull back and be more aware of everything as the time went on, which isn't to say I didn't have a fabulous time, because I had a fabulous time the whole time, but I
Yes.
could feel it building. And then
Yes.
afterwards, when I got back, I just felt really out of sorts and sort of like I was like, I'd reverted back to some old habits, and then I was crabby. Like it was very unsettling when
Yes.
when I got back.
Also, do you identify as introverted?
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes unrelated to the food or whatever else. If we spend 5 days constantly with people and we are more introverted by nature, it doesn't matter what's happened. Even if we've had the most amazing time, we get back and we just need that recharge time because we've personed for
yeah,
many days.
yeah, yeah. And it was New York City, so it was like high stimulate
Oh, I can't imagine. Yes, it would
stimulus
be.
for the
So
whole
if you were going
time.
to go, okay, next time, because at the top of the call, you're like, I'd like some, tools, some go-to tools. But we were playing this event because it was recent.
Yeah,
Day 5 was where it culminated. Day 4, it sounded like it was starting to ramp up. When, what, if you were like, not, we don't want to change the past or anything, but you're like, okay, next time I go to a group event with people, what are your orange lights, like signs that this is starting to become a thing? Because sometimes we're just like, blah, nothing's happening, it's fine.
yeah,
Like, what are your
yeah.
signs that it's like, this is something I need to start to address?
I think it would be when I became aware that I was aware, like
Yeah,
aware
yeah,
of the
yeah.
disassociation, because I could start feeling it, but I
Yep.
ignored it.
And thinking about it now, what day do you think that was? And it's okay if it was day 1, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, I think um, it was probably like day 3, like, yeah, getting on to day 3, because I guess I could start feeling that I was getting irritated. Because of course you're all on your map on your phone, right? Trying to get somewhere. And I could feel my irritation increasing at, either other people taking the lead or like, yes. So it was probably around day 3 where I was starting to feel irritated.
And in an ideal world, like I'm not saying you have to go and do this. We don't want to jump ahead to the, asking, but like knowing what you want, what would help calm,
Yeah,
diffuse that before it escalated?
I'm not sure. That
Something
would
to
be
journal,
something to
something to
think,
ponder.
something to journal about. And I think, yeah, because I did a bit of journaling, like I made sure every morning, like I was up first, so I could at least give myself some of that time
Hmm.
where I was alone when everybody else was still asleep. But I think maybe I need to not just journal, but journal with an awareness um of what I might need that day.
Yeah.
Like if I knew, like, and I even thought on the last day, I thought, because there people were thinking about going off and doing different, like they wanted to do something else, or they didn't want to do what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I just need to go by myself
Yeah.
and go to a diner and sit by myself for breakfast without, like, maybe that's what I need. Like that sounds really scary to actually do in the moment, but probably if I had been able to do that, where I could go and have a meal just by myself, I think I could have reset.
So it might be worth, and this is where you feel into how it feels in your body, but next time you're planning a girls' trip, just to say, however, in your language, love you all fiercely. This is how I would say it. I'm really introverted. Like, and people know that about me. Sometimes I just need to go off on my own to recharge, but then I'll come back. And so, if we're going on a 5-day trip, about day 3, I might go have lunch on my own, or I might, do something different to everyone. Because the thing is, we think, oh, I don't want to be rude, or I don't want this, or I don't want that. But when we communicate it ahead of time, it's not a fear. Like, imagine very recently, I had a filling. My son and I both needed a filling. And anyway, I hadn't had a filling. I've been very lucky. I've had no problems with my teeth. And Casimir went first, and the dentist is like, now I'm going to touch this here, and now it's going to go like this, and now it's going to like that. And she spoke him through the entire procedure, and he was fine. And then I was like, okay, so it's my turn. Like, this is going to happen for me. She didn't say squat, and my tongue's starting to
Mhm.
tingle, and I'm panicking. I'm like, am I having a side effect to the thing? Am I, And then and I was like, oh, I didn't tell her. Like, I just assumed, and I said, look, I need to be spoken through this. Like, speak to me. Like, I want to know. Now I'm going to drill. It's going to go for approximately this long. Like, I'm the kind of person, other people, that would freak them out. They're like, I don't care what you, just don't tell me. Just tell me when it's done. Whereas I like to be spoken through it. So if you said to your friends, like, love you all fiercely, need some downtime, doesn't mean I'm mad or bad or angry or whatever. It's just, sometimes I need to be alone. And then you're on the event, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm just having my alone time now. Oh yeah, that's just Terrie. Like, I'm sure there's people in your life who have some, I don't know, I hesitate to use the word quirks, but you're just like, oh, that's just them. Like, you're not fast. If somebody
Mhm.
else did that, like if there's another friend who went off on their own, you'd be like, is she mad or whatever? But oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, because when people know, they're not phased because they're like, oh yeah, she mentioned this would happen.
Yeah, so I was able to do that because I went off to see a play by myself because they weren't interested in it, but I didn't want to miss it. So I was fine doing that because it wasn't, I guess it wasn't around food. I don't know.
It's
The
interesting
food
though,
thing
how the food
is,
thing really hands up. What play did you see out of
yeah.
interest?
Hmm?
What play did
Oh,
you
I
see?
saw Cabaret with Eddie
Oh,
Redmayne. It
oh
was
my
fab.
goodness.
I know, it was really great. I'm so glad I didn't. So,
So I'm curious, if it comes to something like that, like a theatre or a play or a show, it obviously, I don't know, maybe I'm reaching, but it seems to be a difference to communicate, like, I desire to go and do this, as opposed to, like, I want to eat Chinese instead of Mexican. What is different when it comes to food?
oh, I don't know. It's been forever. When Dell and I first started to travel, food was the thing we thought about because I would get I would get so angry and anxious and freaked out when it came to food. I don't know what it is. So I've come a long way
Mm,
actually
mm.
from when I think about when Dell and I first traveled together, where like we would end up having huge fights over what restaurant to go to because I was so it's just such a big, I don't know what it is, but it was big. So when I think about that, um, I have come a really long way where I'm much more laid back around food and food choices and eating than I ever used to be. And I don't know why, I don't know what it is,
But just take a
but
moment and pause
it's
on that. I've come so far. Like, this sounds like it was almost bordering on crippling when you went out. And now it's kind of like I have a preference. Like, I didn't really want to share tacos. I would have liked whatever it is. And I was kind of frustrated in the moment, but it wasn't crippling that I couldn't partake in the event. Like, it might have been some time ago.
right. It's true. No, that is true. That is good. That is a good reminder that I have come a really long way.
Because I was thinking, like, Casimir, he's doing a speech at school and he's been practicing it. And he's anxious, which is honest. Public speaking is one of the world's number one fears. And I was like, dude, it wasn't that long ago. There was a time that he stood up, he literally could not open his mouth, and then he sat back down. And I was like, so as long as you say something, you've come a long way. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, if the food used to be like this used to, and I imagine, I don't know, you didn't say, I'm reading between the lines, but if it was that bad, would that ever be playing on your mind before you went on the trip, or you didn't enjoy the trip as much because of the food? Because you said this
Yeah,
trip
I mean
you loved.
there were definitely times where yeah, it was like yeah, it was just going to end because it was just too stressful.
And I know I recommended in the past for you The Gap and the Gain as a book. Did you read it?
No, the gap in the
Oh, maybe it wasn't you. I apologize. The Gap and the Gain. I'll
gain.
see who it's by. Hang on. Good thing we've got Google handy. I think it's Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Harvey, but I'll check. And I'll give you, it's quite an easy read. Yep, Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Harvey, The Gap and the Gain. what can happen is we see where we want to be. Like you said, I want to be able to use my voice, not worry about people pleasing, know what I want, state it, and not feel ashamed of my choices. That's the ultimate vision. And anything less than that can be seen as failure. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
When you like actually where I started out was, and whatever it was, like, you know, it brought me so much anxiety. I couldn't, it caused fights, it caused friction. Instead of measuring forward to be, this is where I want to be, if you measure backward to this is how far I've already come,
Mm.
it can just be like a calming, balming soul. So in the book, they give an example. There was an Olympic skier. I think he was a speed skater. I'm not sure. Something, we don't have a lot of winter sports in Australia, but the example stood to mind because basically this person had never won a medal at the Olympics, but he'd been to 4. Now, can you imagine how fit you'd need to be at the top of your game to qualify, not even make the final, but qualify for 4 Olympics? And anyway, all this to say, he knew it would be his last Olympics because of his age and all this sort of stuff. And he really wanted a medal. And he had 2 events that he participated in. And the first event, which was his favored, he hadn't had the medal on. And he did this coaching session with Dan Sullivan from the book. And he's like, instead of looking at how hard it's going to be and how this is your last chance and how you've never made it before, like the gap, let's have a look at you've been at the top of your game for at least 16 years to even qualify. You've been to 4 Olympics. There's not many people in the world who can say that. You know, all these things, like how much have you gained along the way? And he went into that event with that mindset. And not only did he
Mm.
get a medal, he won gold. And it was just like, if
Wow.
you're like, okay, say your next girl event's coming up, your next travel event with your friends, and sometimes you could be like, well, this is what I want. I want to not care what people think. I want to know what I want. I want to be able to state it. I want to eat and not care, but I'm not there yet. So gap. But you're
Yeah.
like, actually, I am going to have a great time regardless of what I eat. This isn't my total preference, and this is still kind of a work in progress for me, but I've come so far. And yeah, I get to go to a cabaret and see, I've forgotten his name, but I knew who you meant when you said it. That, and from that energy, it might be so much easier to say, actually, can I order my own meal? Or I'm going to, not even can I? Or would it worry you if I order my own meal? Because you know subconsciously they're not going to care. And then even
Yeah.
if you just did it once next time, that's another gain
Mm.
and another gain,
Yeah.
another gain.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And no, it was very helpful to think about where, yeah, where I was, where I used to be with it.
Yeah.
And
And maybe some
yeah,
more
and then,
alone time, some more journaling time, some more
yeah,
whatever. Like I know when I travel now, I just need my own room. Like I just can't personally share a room. If the person snores or if they stay up late or if they're a restless sleeper and they make a lot of noise or they come in late because they stay out later than me or what, I just don't have a good time. I'll pay the extra money. I have my own space.
yeah,
People can think whatever they think. She's a diva, she's stuck. I don't care. That's not my business.
yeah,
And other
yeah,
people love sharing. But there's a few exceptions. But if I'm not sure, then I just want the space. And also too, then I can get up and journal or stay up and journal and don't have to worry about, or I can draw my
yeah,
cards and do my weird woo adjacent things and not have to worry about what people think.
yeah. No, that's helpful. So, yeah, and I think one of the things I have to do with my journaling is not just do like a brain drain, like a just, but I need to like it needs to like lead somewhere. Like I need to think about, okay, what do I need to do then? Like what are my next steps or what is it that's, you know, I think they need something. I need to figure out how to be more concrete in moving forward
So something
and
that
not just,
you said, so there's the brain dump journaling, like just get it all out of my head. That's kind of
yeah,
like when you have a shower and you wash your body. It's it for your
yeah,
mind. You're washing your physical mind. The next
yeah,
thing that you said earlier, like know what I want, perhaps it could be journal like I've got I've got a small child in my head. I want like the Christmas list or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not to say, I think sometimes we are afraid of doing that because we immediately go to how am I going to get this? Is it too
Mm,
much or whatever? You don't need to share that with anyone. I imagine you don't share your brain dump with anybody, but like I want, because if you can't even allow yourself to think
yeah.
about imagining it, how are you going to create it?
Yeah.
And then you could even, once you've written it, there could be like, I want, like ultimate, I want a Michelin star chef to make me a personalized meal and deliver it to my door. Like, you know, this is like 10 out of 10. And then
Yeah.
like, I'd be satisfied with, I go to the restaurant and ask for, you know, because it's so funny. Sometimes if you imagine a spectrum of selfless to selfish, like if we drew a line on a piece of paper, and selfless is like, I don't mind where we eat. We'll have whatever you want. I'm not
Yeah.
phased. And selfish is like, I want a Michelin star personal chef to deliver it to my room. We're in the middle, like self full, is in, it's so funny, full of self. Well, who else do you want to be full of? You know, we think we know the spectrum, but we're actually only this much off selfless.
Yeah.
So you could be like, when you put my ultimate vision, then you
Hmm.
realize me actually saying I don't want to share a meal, I'm having this, is actually not that big of a pendulum, but it looks like it is when we're so far up hanging up on this end.
Yeah.
And also too, when you write it, like your ultimate desire, you might write that down. Like I know I said it so offhand, but I was like, I wouldn't actually want a
Yeah.
Michelin star because the thing is their food's kind of usually fancy and it looks like I can imagine I'd insult them if I put salt or something on there or some sort of dressing and they'd be like, you know, and it's like I actually kind of
Yeah.
like plainish food. So it's kind of we think in our heads, oh, we're being so demanding. But when we actually write it down, it's like, is it that demanding? Really?
Yeah.
Like in the
Yeah.
past, I had to move a call. Tomorrow, I've accidentally double booked something. So I had to move something. And in the past, that would have really bent me out of shape. I would have felt so bad. I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm inconveniencing someone or whatever. And this morning, I was just like, I was honest. I don't know how it happened. I've double booked. Are you available to shift 1 hour either way? She wrote back and goes, I can do an hour earlier. It was easy. But before that would have taken me out. It would have been like, oh my gosh, I need to make up some
Yeah.
sort of reason, or I need to apologize, or I need to order them, offer them something else. It's like, no, I just need to be honest. I don't know. There's something wrong with my calendar. I'll sort that out later. But I've accidentally double booked. Are you open to shifting? People are pretty accommodating because you
Yeah.
know that they would be like, yeah, sure, Terry, order whatever you want.
Yeah. No, I know, and they totally would have. Just really wouldn't have cared.
And the next question, like, and you're already doing this, but when we go they will care, they will think, something to bring to your journal is where do I care? Where do I think? Then
Mm.
you can start to unpack because most
Hmm.
of the time they don't care. We do for some reason, but we don't want to dismiss
Yeah.
that or downplay it. We want to unpack it.
Yeah. No, and that's yeah, that is big. And I would be, yeah, I would like to do some more thinking about what all of what that is. Because it's something, because it's been such a big part of my life. It's like, what is that? And I don't know, maybe I don't need to know what it is, but it helps me to understand, but
And then you could always ask yourself if you do some journaling around this and then ask, do I need to know more?
mm,
And just check in with your gut. So
yeah.
another suggested thing to delve into if it feels good, earlier in the call, and you could watch it back. And I always encourage everyone to watch their coaching back. If you don't like watching yourself back, I don't like watching myself back. I'll just listen. But you said something when it was like, I was angry that they weren't eating enough or whatever. And it's like, where am I angry at myself? Or for them, were you angry that they were actually knowing what they want and stating it? and I had a judgment about that. And,
Mhm.
do I need to know more about this, or is it just the awareness of it enough? Because sometimes it can be like, oh, do I need to keep carrying this? Or is it like, yeah, I get angry sometimes, like I get activated. Because I'm just thinking there's so many things in life that to one person they could totally get bent out of shape about it, and to another person they don't care. Like when we had a flat tire recently, I was like, oh, well, we'll change it, move on our very way. My husband was like, if only we hadn't run over the nail. If only this. I was like, well, we can't fix that now. You know?
Sounds like my husband. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. And I do think that is a good question, is what was I angry at? And I know I was angry at, well, I think I was afraid. I was afraid of being judged is part of it.
Mm.
I think if I'd made different choices, but I don't even know if that's it. I'll have to do some
Unpack
delving
it, but
into that.
also too, because your next question is, say you were judged. Say they were like, Terry shouldn't
Right.
be eating that for whatever reason. Do you really want to hang out with people who are going to
Yeah.
judge you? Because sometimes that's the bigger thing. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one last
Yeah.
thing, do you remember the story? Have I told you the story before about the grandfather taking his two grandkids to the barn and the horse poo?
Yes. I know. I love that story.
So I'm just going to say it again for anyone who's catching this on the replay. So this grandfather takes his two grandkids to, like, I don't know, an Airbnb or whatever that has a barn. And they get out of the car and they go over and they see poo as they walk into the barn. And one of the boys just runs out, it's like, oh, this stinks. Oh my gosh. And like runs away. And the other one runs into the barn and he's swinging from the rafters and he's jumping around. And he's like, oh, and grandfather's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, with all this poo, there must be a pony. So it's like, in the situation, are you wanting to avoid and run away and like, this stinks, I don't want to address it? Or do you want to look for the pony? Because sometimes, when you have that awareness, hey, it's not actually about the food, it's about belonging, or it's about being myself, or it's about
Mm.
using my voice. And in this situation, do I want to? Do I want to ride the pony? Or do I want to be like, not right now? And either answer's fine. None of these boys are right or wrong or good or bad. They're just like, sometimes we want to look for the pony, and sometimes we want to be like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, does that feel like our intention at the beginning to have, some tools to go through? Does that feel like you've
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's good. It's yeah, I do. I feel like it's definitely brought it full circle in a way that I think I can ruminate on
Yeah.
moving forward.
Have you got another trip planned? Do you tend to do this like once a year or any sort of
Well,
semi-regularly?
it just sort of happened with this group of, it's all moms. And we, I don't, most of us don't travel alone without family. And so it was a big deal. And then, so I don't know, we're talking about maybe doing another one, maybe every couple years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and, yeah,
That's
I mean,
exciting.
yeah, I know we get along really well. We mostly like the same things.
I love that. And so what's been
Yeah.
your biggest takeaway from today?
My biggest takeaway is that I have come a long way, and and that and I guess I can see that I'll keep moving on down the line. So I can see one day being comfortable enough to say, I'm just going to eat this.
And when you do that, like from there, from that space, then your next layer can uncover. Like the next thing. I think sometimes we think personal development, when I get there, like this is nirvana.
Yeah.
It's like nothing else is ever going to go wrong. The truth of the universe, the I core of the gods are in my vein. Ha! And then you'll get there and you'll be like, actually, this kind of irks me. Or I really wish I could do this. So it's not like,
Yeah.
I remember when I really struggled with eating and I saw like a naturopath, and I saw a lot who weren't good, but this one was quite useful. He said to me, it's like you keep baking the cake and then destroying it, and baking the cake and destroying it, because I was like, I kept circling around the same issue. He's like, what
Hmm.
do you think a chef would do when they master the cake? And I was like, well, they'd move on to another recipe. Like they'd learn to make pastry or something. So it's kind of like when this is done and dusted
Yeah.
and nailed, it's not nirvana, the end of the world. Oh, it's like, okay, well, what's next? What's the next layer to this? And it's
Yeah.
like, because there are so many things. And then when you look at the look how far I've come, have you ever seen the image? It's like a little stick figure, and he's like, I've got a long way to go. He's climbing like a hill, but then he's like, but look how far I've come. And you can
Mhm.
see all the things. So it's like when you get there, it's more like a little ledge. Enjoy the view, hang out, celebrate that. But then, okay, now what's next? Next,
Yeah.
I want to sing in a show. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's also a very good reminder.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining me, Terrie. This has been fabulous.
Thank
Bye.
you.
You're welcome. Bye for
Bye.
now.